concrete evidence or images that have some meaning to the audience actually. Now I remember, these were more than 20 years ago. What do I remember now of Brazilian and Mexican soap operas? Honestly, nothing. Honestly, nothing. That means these were only pop culture like soaps, and that their governments were not able to leverage that popularity into something that's more concrete. And I'm hoping that Turkey realizes the popularity of its TV and cinema, and that leverages that in its benefit. And that's the hope of also my talk and my work. So, establishing presence. You know, every other country wants to establish some sort of a global presence, especially in today's world where there is so much competition going on. With the emerging powers, new powers such as the BRICS and MINTs, and Turkey is amongst the MINT countries, Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, and Turkey being the T. So these countries try to balance out the power with the more developed countries or global powers such as US and others, and EU, but they try to do it with diverse ways. Culture is just one of them. So take a look at, for instance, South Korea. South Korea is still a developing country, and it uses popular culture as a way to reach out to audiences. So everybody knows Gangnam Style, right? K-pop, the anime, and the Korean dramas. Korean dramas on television, they're a big competition for the Turkish drama series. Anybody watch Korean dramas here? Winter Sonata? Anybody? Oh. Well, they're very similar to Turkish ones. Very similar. They have romance. They have the same elements. But again, it's an interesting response that you guys don't watch the Korean ones, but watch the Turkish ones. And my question would be why?
Because it's close. The culture is closer.
Yeah, cultural proximity, right? You feel. You look at the Turkish ones and you see there's a extended family, grandfather and granddaughter at the same table. They're having dinner together. Although there might be a little bit scandalous behavior in some of these shows that we might not approve personally, there is still that strong family dynamic going on in the Turkish ones. And they do instill these values. So that's one of the reasons that we feel comfortable watching them. I did some preliminary focus groups in the US, and one of the respondents said, we can actually watch the Turkish soap operas with our family without being totally ashamed, as in watching the Mexican ones or Brazilian ones, because it's more sexually very explicit or unacceptable behavior. So I would like to hear your input. But yeah, so China is also up and coming. China's it's a global power, but it is using cinema. Chinese cinema is very important, and the Chinese Confucius Institutes, such as the equivalent of Yunus Emre Institutes. India has Bollywood. I've watched several Bollywood films. It's a genre. They have the movies, they have their music, and they also have their cuisine, the Indian cuisine. So it comes together as like a team. That's a team. And all of these have their advantages and disadvantages in terms of how it's portrayed. Same with the Korean one, unlike the Turkish ones. K-pop is a government initiative. So K-pop is funded, sponsored, strategized by the Korean government. Back in the 1990s, then Korean Prime Minister actually put up a strategy memo suggesting that all the Korean soap operas, all the Korean music, and anime, everything was put together in one group, and that it should be promoted outside to foreign audiences, to bring more attention to what Korea is, how it's different from Japan, how it's different from other parts of the Asian, Southeast Asian world. So it has been a success actually, but that's been a government effort. What we see in the Turkish television is a definitely non-governmental effort. It's a business effort. On the other hand, I'm also going to talk about the Turkish cinema, which is a semi-government sponsored effort by the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, and also reflects the changes in the Turkish society, changes in the whole, how some of the key issues in the Turkish society can now be portrayed more easily in those movies. Relates to Turkey's economic progress, Turkey's social progress, and political progress. So Turkey's international communication. Turkey definitely wants to have more of a global presence and significance. So it does that in several different ways. Popular culture, TV and cinema is just a part of it. Cinema is now the big thing with the Oscar nominations and the foreign film. So the Ministry of Culture, Directorate of Cinema, I believe, Sinema Direktörü? Yeah.
Sinema Genel Müdürlüğü,
Yes.
Kültür Bakanlığı'na
Yes.
bağlı.
That department is actually providing a lot of incentives for foreign filmmakers. So anybody wants to shoot a film in Turkey, I believe they're more than welcome to do because of the tax incentives and everything. And that's been a big push towards Hollywood as well. So Turkey is also discovering the proper tools to reach out to audiences and assessing its soft power resources. One of them is culture, the other one is its history and geography, and the other one is obviously, as Joseph Nye coined, the father of soft power coined politics. Humanitarian diplomacy, disaster diplomacy is a big significant part of what Turkey has been doing in terms of setting the agenda globally. For instance, there are over 2 million Syrian refugees right now in Turkey, hosting along with other nations. But Turkey has been really doing so much in that department and trying to make a name for itself as a humanitarian actor. So it's, I believe in the next few months, it's hosting the first World Humanitarian Summit. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's in May. And it's engaged in many different international organizations. So it's not doing this solidarity, but on its own, but it's doing with a collaboration of different actors. Has AFAD, Kızılay, and NGOs are all state-based actors that actually work on state-based public diplomacy. But we look at the other semi-state-based and non-state-based public diplomacy is, of course, Turkey's cultural diplomacy. Yunus Emre cultural centers and cultural institutes, they've been around for a couple of years now and doing a great job all across the world, opening up more centers. I just heard there's a new one in Serbia, Belgrade, that was opened by Turkey's Prime Minister, Ahmet Davutoğlu. So the centers are concentrating so far in regions that Turkey has historical, cultural connections with. So that it's not far out as in, say, where Turkey has less ties or less relevance, but places such as Lebanon, where communities can also interact and find a common pathways of communication, so that not only you guys here, locals, can learn Turkish, but also, I believe, we, the Turks, can learn from you guys. And that's the key of the cultural exchanges. There's so much to learn from, for instance, the Lebanese culture that can be implemented in the whole Turkish cultural diplomacy and foreign policy. So what else? The Turkish cinema. It's been, like I said, it's been a government push as well as a strategy since, I believe, the late 1990s, especially with the recent government. There's been big incentives on making movies in Turkey, such as Skyfall, that was shot in Turkey, parts of it. Parts of Argo shot in Turkey. Turkey has also a couple of several award-winning films with the Cannes Film Festival and the Berlin Film Festival. And the television series, of course, they're big boom, and we're going to talk about it. Now, educational exchanges. Anybody heard of Türkiye bursları and anybody wants to apply? Well, even I want to apply. Okay, you definitely should if you want to keep on learning Turkish. If you want to go to a Turkish institution and get a sense of what the culture is about and teach and exchange Turks about your culture. Because Lebanon is so diverse, it's so rich. I think Turks in Turkey just have to get to know that. It will be a privilege to have you guys over there in Istanbul or elsewhere. So please do apply before the deadline. But this is another one of, it's like the Fulbright scholarship, what the US does. So all of this is pretty new for Turkey. And it just happened because of Turkey's more active foreign policy approach and that it had the economic tools to do this. Before that, it wasn't able to do all of this. Putting in a lot of money for the Yunus Emre Institutes, a lot of money towards Türkiye bursları, a lot of money on the cinema directorate. This is so much work, and it wasn't able to do this until recently. So right now, it might look a little bit hyperactive at this point, but I think in the next few years, it's all going to be settled in. And we're going to see hopefully more of Yunus Emre's and more of the Afad and Kızılay work and everything is trying to be more actually coordinated at this point. A while ago it was a little bit less coordinated, I would say, but now that it's been a while, it's been a couple of years, all these institutions are working together. Okay, let's take a look at the Turkish cinema. Anybody here has seen maybe say like Nuri Bilge Ceylan movies? Winter Sleep? Yeah? Okay, what about Semih Kaplanoğlu movies? Yeah? Maybe some of those could be screened here at Yunus Emre. Just a suggestion. These are, so Turkey's path in international cinema. It started with 1963. It's been a long time. But after that, there was almost nothing significant until late 90s or early 2000s. And especially in the last 15 years, like I said, there's been a big push, big like incentives, and we've seen a lot of developments with the film industry in Turkey. So there has been places to shoot films now available, and that's a great opportunity. And also the filmmakers have experience right now. So before they did not have that experience. Now that with the interaction with Western filmmakers, there's more of that. There's more collaboration with the regional filmmakers and also the ones in, say, Hollywood and Europe. And that has rendered good results. So Turkish cinema has a local and native sense. If you ever watch one of the Turkish cinemas, stories are from Anatolia. They are about everyday hurdles, mostly. Look at the newest one. That's actually a French, it's French/Turkish, Mustang. Have you guys heard of that? Yes. So I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna see. It's about a couple of Turkish girls. Well, it talks about everyday struggles of young Turkish teenagers in a semi-rural place. It should be nice to see that and to also discuss that in terms of the soap operas. Unlike Iranian and French films, Turkish films kind of still lack a distinct character. You see, like the Persian films has their own genre, and French films has their own thing. Turkish films are still trying to figure out, well, where do we stand? Which is our market? But because it's up and coming, I do strongly believe it's going to happen, and it does have a very certain audience. So, yeah, these Turkish films have been tackling very controversial issues, actually, since more freedoms have been introduced in Turkey. For instance, when I was growing up, I would not see any film on, say, Turkey and Kurds, or like minorities, or other issues that, or LGBT rights, stuff that could be very controversial back in the 90s. But recently, these have been even sponsored by the cinema directorate. So it means there's a significant push for more liberal